What suggestions do you have for Chinese filmmakers in terms of enhancing the global performance of their works? I mean, regarding like storytelling.
Well, I think one of the things, for example, that we are encouraging is tell current stories, stories that are based on more current perspectives. It's easier for a global audience to identify with current trends and current fashion, even if the people speak a different language. And I think some of the focus on period pieces has been difficult for it to travel.
Right.
It's still possible. There are certainly examples of period dramas that really have traveled when you have the right characters that people connect with. But if I were suggesting to people to focus on a less difficult path initially as they try to learn the international market, I think some of the more current themes are things that again, in the United States, a significant amount of our audience is younger, under 35. And again, they're going to be able to identify and relate to more current affairs and more current themes than they are to historical ones. And so as we're trying to encourage the filmmakers here in China to branch out globally, we would suggest some of those possible themes.
So our filmmakers need to have a global vision, you know, not just an eye on the domestic market. We need to frame the storytelling into the global framework.
I think that's really important. This earlier today, I was talking with some people about a children's show that was made, it was a Chinese show, and stylistically, it was quite different than the way we do children's content. And this is just one example. And I asked why they had used certain techniques. And they relayed to me that it kind of was consistent with the way parents told their children stories when they were young. And that was therefore very comforting and consistent with the Chinese culture, which makes sense in and of itself. But if you want to build a global business, you probably need to step back and think about more universal style and approach that not only is still genuine to your home audience, which we know you need to be credible, but also takes into account a broader global audience from the get-go. And I think that would make the tone, the dialogue, and the way you present visually different than perhaps some of the filmmaking that's done right now for Chinese-specific audiences.
That reminds me of last year's hit, Coco.
Yes.
Although the setting of the story is Mexico, the theme of the film is quite universal.
Yes.
Exactly.
And if we choose a film like Mulan, which is very much culturally, in a sense, thematically based on the Chinese experience, but the dialogue and the characters felt universal, and because of that, I think it was accepted on a universal basis.
I will tell you, having worked at Disney during that period where we really ramped up our animation business, and really saw with Lion King was the first movie that really kind of broke through and did better internationally than domestic. To what I was saying before, we made a conscious effort at Disney to do exactly what Bill is saying, to create movies that had universal themes that would resonate all around the world. And so from the beginning of the script development process, that was a thought in our mind. And I think that needs to be sort of a discipline that Chinese filmmakers, if they want to have movies that succeed globally, need to put in place now.
So the story is one thing, how you tell the story is another thing.
That's right. Very good,
That's
subtle, way to put it. But it's very important to make that distinction.
And what do you envision are the future trends for China-US TV and film co-productions?
I think it's a very positive future. There was a recent movie called The Foreigner, which was produced at a relatively low budget and was released around the world and did pretty well. It did, I think, $145 million at the worldwide box office on a relatively low production budget. And I think that bodes well for the future. It was co-produced with a U.S. studio called STX, which has significant Chinese investment in it. And I think that gave them the incentive to build a movie with their Chinese partners that would work in China and in the U.S. And it said that, even though the most successful Chinese language film was years ago, if you construct a film the right way, and you think of the global audience, and you have the right partner that's motivated to make that film succeed outside of China, it can still work.
And a key theme that I talk about to find the success with co-production is what I'd say in 2 words: mutual respect. And what I mean by that is, recently a lot of producers have come to me from America recognizing our new entree into the Chinese market, and they've said, here's a great movie, Bill, and we'll put a Chinese character in it and we can make it a co-production. That isn't what's required. That isn't mutual respect any more than a Chinese producer can take a single American and drop it in it and think that that's going to make a film work in America. What we need to do is develop, if we want to create a co-production, we need to create them together as a co-production.
It's a real co-production.
A real co-production, genuine. And what that means is the stories need to understand both sides, both cultures, and find ways to respect and show that. No country wants to see a film from another country that makes it feel less important. That's just not what we as people are looking for. And that's true on both sides of these oceans. But there are plenty of stories that can be developed that express real respect for both, where maybe the story takes place in America, but the hero is Chinese. Or maybe the story takes place in China, and yet without the American, the ultimate resolution couldn't occur. So there's ways to really create that, and I think it just means that you have to go into the process, into that creative process, saying, I'm going to create something that I really feel both countries would feel proud to be a part of. And if you use that as a guideline, I think there's a lot of opportunity in the co-production world.
So both parts should feel that like we both contribute to the content
Absolutely.
itself,
Right.
not only in the format.
Right. And not just materially, but in the actual story and in the characters. And let's be equals in the movie, and if you create that, I think you'll find a universal appeal.
That sounds very exciting. The last one.
Sometimes easier said than done.
Yeah.
But the other thing I'll just add to that is, we've had our door knocked on a lot recently. American creative community wants to find a way to work with the Chinese so their movies are found in China. And I believe the Chinese culture and the Chinese creative community very much wants to find a way for their films to be accepted on a more global stage. So the creative community is ready. With a little bit of direction and the right partners, I think we can find that solution.
Because we're both waiting to do that.
Yes, I think we both want that.
Yeah.
We really do.